Hey guys, so I'm getting my gear ready for this coming Thursday. I got my 5mm Scuba Pro wetsuit out. I've got my equipment here. I've hosed it off, it's starting to dry. Let's start out with the Regulator. This is an old Scuba Pro from the late 60s. It was used by Navy SEALs and contracted with the United States Navy. It is incredibly reliable. It breathes a little wet, but that's okay. Now you're going to, for those that don't scuba dive, you have those that are like, they enjoy their vintage. Okay, I enjoy my vintage. I grew up on a rig like this. Okay, I was 5 years old free diving. My Uncle Roy taught me how to do that. Then we moved on over to scuba, and at the time, that was in the 80s. You know, it wasn't a big deal to be certified back then at all, and child safety, you know, was a little bit less considered than what it is now. But you know, that's how I grew up with my uncle. And I grew up in Destin, Florida, and Gunnersville with my parents. But this Regulator is, well, to me, one of the very best, even by today's standards, even though it's older. Okay, I have serviced it myself. It works fine. Now this is my Octopus. This is my backup Regulator. It's from 1972-73. It is in good condition as well. I serviced both these units last year, so they are completely fine. From the movie, well, the TV show, I'm sorry, Flipper, if you remember the boy that has his back mount for his air tank, this is the exact same kind. I don't use a BCD. I don't, guys. I really don't. Nothing against anyone that uses the BCD, but I don't particularly care if I'm neutral buoyant or not. That's fine. I like being a little bit less buoyant, to be completely honest, so I can just hang out at the bottom. You know, I don't want to necessarily hover over anything, but I like resting on the bottom, so that's just what I do. That's what I've always done. And you know, I'm like an old dog. You can't teach me a new trick, really. I do need to have this service this year. I'm going to replace my hoses. I'm going to have this inspected, and we're going to replace any gaskets that need to be replaced. And I'm going to have them inspect my tank and fill it for me. I just don't have the time, so I'm just going to let them do it for me at the dive shop. And yeah, so this is my setup. My flippers are also old school, as you can see. And normally I don't wear these type of flippers, but I'm going to be honest. I'm not in Destin, Florida. I'm not in Pensacola. I'm not in the Cayman Islands. I'm in Alabama. And at the edge of the water, you're going to get snake bit. That's almost a guarantee, certainty. So we'll use these, and we'll buy a pair of dive shoes, and maybe something a little bit more for protection as I'm getting closer to the water, around my ankles and legs. And just do it that way so I don't get bitten by water moccasins or copperheads or anything of that nature. So I'm just going to use these, and I don't want to be walking barefoot because there's broken glass and, you know, all types of jagged metal, cans, you know, just whatever. I don't want to get my feet cut up, so I'm just going to just buy some dive shoes and just slip those on, strap these on, and I'm good. This rig right here, I paid $100 for it, okay? And that was last year. I used it 3 times to test it out last year. Everything was fine. But when you have your dive gear, this is your life support system, you need to make sure you're safe. The only way to make sure you're safe is to service your equipment, service it and service it. And if it ever does come to the point where you can't buy the materials to keep this serviced as it should, then yes, it's time to replace and it's time to move on. But I have found a place that sells vintage replacement parts for the diaphragm, for the regulators, and everything else. You can actually, you know, measure those out and replace those with other models, if you dare. But I found a place for replacement parts. I have the blueprint schematic manual for the Scuba Pro 60s Regulator, and I have done so. I've cleaned it, I've taken it apart, I've serviced it, put it back together, tested it out 3 times. It works just fine. Like I said, it breathes a little wet, but it's fine. This one, easy. You still get the parts for this one. I may change up some things coming up this week before Thursday, but for right now we're just going to leave it as is and just have them replace the hoses, inspect the tank for cracks, refill it with air, check this, and all gaskets need to be replaced, and make sure it's ready for my safety. Because, like I said, this is your life support system. You need this. And I'm not going down 10 feet just to see if it works and to make sure it works after servicing. You know, I could be 35, 40 feet down. It just depends. And I can do an emergency ascent. That wouldn't be an issue. But let's not, because you could have complications from that. Okay, and I don't want complications. I need to work. And I can't afford to be off too many days. So, okay, that's my system. I thought I would show it to you. And I'm anticipating this coming Thursday. See y'all there.